Okay, so we are recording. I know some of you are talking about the attendee list is covering up the screen. That's on your screen, not on my screen. I've gone ahead and started the recorder. We're going to put this up on the website later after this is fully done. But I appreciate you all taking the time and coming today. I'm going to be sharing screens and we're going to be going through a number of demos. And we have quite a lot of content that we're going to try to be showing today. And so give me just a second to get my slide deck up here. And once we get that going, I think we're ready to go. So we're not going to waste any time because there's so much to be talking about today. So my recorder is recording and everything looks good. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Now, I have a bunch of awesome teammates that are helping me out today that are going to not only be participating in today's call, but they're also going to be monitoring the chats for any questions that you have. So we've gone ahead because there's so many people, we went ahead and muted the microphones. That way we don't have a bunch of background noise. But if you have a question about anything I'm talking about, please feel free to go ahead and type into the chat. And Shaz and Navi and Jamil, who are helping me today, they're part of my awesome Microsoft team. They're going to be helping answer some of those, and then they'll team me if it's a technical question that I need to be answering. They'll let me know that that's in the queue. So welcome. This is our Microsoft Teams webinar. What we did, we realized in this crazy time frame we're all living in right now that a lot of people are having to work from home or work remotely. And for many people, it's the first time they've ever had to do this before. So what's great about TechStar, I love this company because they came and they basically said, what can we do to help people out? And one of the things that they could do is my background, I came from almost 20, 30 years of training, working on Microsoft products and working for Microsoft. They basically said, why don't you go out and teach people how to get the most out of working from home? Because Microsoft has some amazing tools that many people don't even know are out there. So that's where the idea for this session came in. And we're going to specifically be talking about Microsoft Teams. Teams is a part of the Office 365 platform. So if you've got Office 365, you already have Teams. If you don't, we're going to show you how you can get it for free using a new program that Microsoft has, and we're also going to show you some of the stuff that we're doing. So I do want to point out that the commitment TechStar has made, they've done a couple of cool things. Number one is they're going to let me continue on a regular basis doing some training to help people keep their productivity up during this crazy time. So right now we're going to be talking about Teams and we're going to be talking about working remotely and working from home, but we're also going to be looking at other topics. I know Navi's on the call. He's been talking to me about a lot of customers are asking about the Power Platform, what Microsoft's doing with Power Apps and Flow. And, Navi, we have a bunch of customers I think we've been working on for the last couple of years that are certainly doing that. And it seems like a lot of business keeps coming that way. So we may do a webinar special as well, talking about Power Platform. And then,
yeah, that's right, Mike. So actually over the last year, we've had over 3 oil and gas customers use Microsoft Power Apps to automate their business processes. Since Power Apps require no knowledge of software development, users are able to build automated process flows using drag and drop functionality. And the result is that our customers have been freed from redundant manual business processes and tasks, so they can focus on work and tasks that bring the most value with enhanced productivity. So we're definitely pushing for that in the upcoming weeks here.
And the coolest part is that fits right into Teams. And thank you for that, right? And by the way, yes, we do have a lot of big companies, oil and gas, that we work with. We also work with small and medium size. TechStar has been in business now for going on 17, 18 years. We're a Microsoft Gold partner. We're well known. A lot of our staff came from Microsoft. Matter of fact, if Shaz is on the line, Shaz, if you can unmute, I just want you to say hi. He is our sales director that just came on, and he was, just a couple weeks ago working for Microsoft. Is that right, Shaz?
That is correct. And during my time at Microsoft as well, we had transitioned from Skype to Teams. So I can definitely tell you a little bit more about that later on the call as well. So I appreciate that introduction, Michael.
Perfect. No worries. And again, this isn't really trying to force sales down on anyone. We're trying to help you get productive. So this is going to be demo, I promise you. And let's get into that right now. Let's talk about some of the things we're going to do. Ashok, who's one of our owners, is on the line, and he sent this to me today, and I thought this was awesome. This came in this morning, right from the news service. Microsoft Teams service for calling and chatting with colleagues has grown to over 44 million daily active users. That is a phenomenal number. And what's crazy is that was only 20 million back in November. So it's more than doubled in just the last 6 months. This thing has taken off, as we were talking about. Our biggest customers are all talking about it. They're all plugging in and getting hooked in, and they're coming to us to talk about Teams and specifically what Microsoft's doing. And that number is just going out of control. 80% of all employees are spending more and more time collaborating with others. And this last statistic is really fascinating. 72% of all workers are going to be working remotely in 2020. And of course, what's going on now with the pandemic and everything else, that number is probably going to climb much, much higher. So we want to be prepared. And that's what the session is all about. Now, Microsoft is doing something really cool, and TechStar is doing something really cool. Let me describe this for you. Right now, Teams is part of Office 365. And if your organization has 365, you've already got Teams. But Microsoft wants to make sure everyone has access to it during this crazy time we're going through. So they've come out with a new policy. They're going to give away for free Office 365, what they call an E1 license. That's kind of the bare minimum license that Microsoft has for Office 365. They're going to give it away for 6 months to any customer that wants it. And all you have to do is reach out to one of the Microsoft Gold partners. TechStar is one, and they can set you up with that. Now, what's great about this is it's not just letting people have the software, but Microsoft's also released a lot of the restrictions on that E1 license as they pertain to hosting your own meetings and chatting. And we can give you more details with that offline. But if you don't have Teams yet, you should, and we can help set that up, and Microsoft's going to cover the cost for that 6-month period of time. Now, what's great beyond that is TechStar said, okay, we're doing this free training to help our customers out. What else could we do? They've agreed that we have the ability to sell Microsoft licenses to customers. And during the next month or two, while this crisis is really going on, we've agreed that any customer who's interested, who wants to get on Teams, who wants to get on Office, we'll go ahead and license you, and we will sell you that service at cost, meaning no markup. You'll pay exactly what we pay to Microsoft. And as long as you keep that service open, we'll continue that. We're not going to load up the fees later or anything else. We want to get you there because we know we don't want to see the economy crumble. We don't want to see customers losing profitability. And if we can teach you how to use Teams, and if we can get you in on that, that'll work great. I do have 2 notes here. One is governments do have some regulation on working with the government clouds. The offer's still there, but there are some other restrictions, and we'll tell you all about that if you'll call us. We'll explain how that works in the government cloud. Also, if you're a teacher or education, you can get what they call an Office 365 A1 license. Same kind of thing. It's for educational institutions. And I've got a link here. And again, TechStar will be more than happy to teach you how to do this. So it's not just TechStar. It's Microsoft, TechStar. It's a lot of other people are really trying to help everyone out during this crazy, crazy time. You will find I hate slides, and this is going to be demo. But in order to appreciate what Teams is, I'm going to go through very, very quickly, just give you an understanding of how this came about, because I think it'll help you appreciate it and use it better when you start working remotely. So bear with me as I just zip through a couple of slides. I call this remembering the 90s. When I joined Microsoft in 1990, this is what the world looked like. It looked like WordPerfect. Remember WordPerfect days, or Lotus 1-2-3 days, or Harvard Graphic days, or DBase. I called out those 4 programs because if you started in the 90s, that's when Microsoft started their Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, but they were the going up against the entrenched competitor. Lotus, WordPerfect, Harvard Graphics, and DBase had about 100% market share, and Microsoft had nothing. And I was working with Microsoft in 1990. That's the year I started. And I'm telling you, we had a really hard time selling these original products. Part of the reason why is every product that shipped came with all these extra features, spell checkers and mouse drivers and printer drivers and clip art and fonts and thesauruses, and you can read all this as well as I can. What was nuts is these products had these all coming on the diskettes. So original copy of Word for Windows, and I meant to have it with you because I got it in the other room. The original Word for Windows came on 28 diskettes, but only 4 of those were related to actually the Word program. All the rest was all this crazy stuff. So what happened? Microsoft couldn't sell anything. They couldn't get anywhere. Bill Gates came up with a genius idea, which he said, let's rip all this extra redundant stuff out and let's put it into the Windows operating system. So he took it out of the apps, made the apps just complete the code that the apps had. So Word went from 28 diskettes down to 4. And then he took all that extra stuff and he put it into Windows. And so what happens now is if you want a spell checker, right, Excel is going to call on the same spell checker that Word calls on, that PowerPoint calls on. You get the point. They all use one spell checker instead of these other apps that use 4, 5, 6 different spell checkers, all doing the same thing, all taking up extra space and causing lots of problems. So what happened is Microsoft flipped the whole world around. And what's more interesting than that is what happened to these companies, Lotus 123 and WordPerfect and Harvard Graphics? And the answer is they're all gone. They're pretty much non-existent anymore. So Microsoft, by 1998, they become the de facto standard at 100% market share. In the span of 8 years, the world flipped from 0% for Microsoft to 100% for Microsoft. It doesn't stop there, though, because when you look at servers, and we're almost done with this, so bear with me, we're almost in the demo. What were the servers like? Novell NetWare, right? Netscape was the browser of choice. The CC Mail was the email system that everyone used. This eventually became the Lotus Notes product. And Oracle and their enterprise database systems. These were all the standards that everyone used. So again, here is 100% market share across the board. Microsoft comes in with all these other packages and have a real hard time selling these systems. Same thing happens. I didn't write all these out just because there'd be way too much text on the screen, but just taking the file systems, you had files and securities and printer access and internet access and remote access. All this had to be controlled by each one of these groups. And what happened is Microsoft did the exact same thing they did with the desktop applications. They took out the commonality from all their existing information. They put it in something called Active Directory. And now every one of these programs, if you wanted to add a user or delete a user or restrict rights or whatever, you would call to the same systems inside of Active Directory, and they controlled it all. Novell could not ever tell Netscape what to do. Netscape couldn't talk to CC Mail or Oracle or any of these. There was no interoperability, but in the Microsoft world, they all work together. All right. So what happened? Well, you can guess it. Novell's gone, Netscape gone, CC Mail's gone. And I didn't take out Oracle because they're still there, but they've shrunk down in well below half of what they used to be. They're practically gone. And Microsoft now is the predominant servers that most people are using. So you could tell this plan keeps working and it works really well. Now we come to cloud and we got AWS and Google and Apple and Slack and all these other organizations out here. And they all have their own boxes. AWS has about 280 modules that make up the AWS system. So I didn't draw all 280 boxes out here, right? Because it would get crazy. But Microsoft had Skype as a cloud product and Power BI and OneDrive. Well, guess what they did? They were the last ones to get to the cloud, but they realized, let's use that same process that we used with apps and with servers, and let's build out a new way of letting these things integrate. Now, to talk about this real quick, we're almost there, but I do want to point out, if you just look at calendars today, what Microsoft products have calendars? The answer is SharePoint has calendars. You can share calendars inside of SharePoint. You can also do it inside of Yammer. Yammer has its own calendaring program. You can also do it in Skype. Skype for Business. It has its own calendaring program. And you can also do it in Outlook. And I could keep going on and on. There's 7 different programs in the Microsoft scheme of things that all have their own calendaring system. And the big question everyone wants to ask is why? Why not just take the best calendar program you have, which everyone agrees would be Outlook, take that Outlook calendar out, put it into a container, and let everyone use that as their calendaring application. So now your world's going to look something like this. What if I could take all these programs and instead of making them their own independent ones with their own calendars and their own email systems and their own everything, I can put them into a box and have them all share. And I can open it up for third-party companies like YouTube and Adobe and Cisco and Zendesk and all these other competitors of Microsoft. And the question we're asking today is, what's the name of this box? And the answer, you probably already guessed, is Microsoft Teams. I'm going to now show you how this box works, and more importantly, if you're brand new to working remotely, how you can use this box to really stay connected and stay productive within your organizations. So I'm about to go into a demo. I'm going to pause and ask my team, are there any questions in the queue? Remember, please use that chat window if you'd like to ask a question. Do we have any questions right now? Probably not yet, but we will shortly.
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions yet, Mike.
Okay, so I'm going to jump out and I'm now going to flip over into an environment that Microsoft has provided with us. So they've created a virtual environment that we can all work together. So Navi and Shaz and Jamil are going to help me, and they've taken on personalities just like I've taken on. If I open up my team site, you'll notice up at the top, there's this person named Megan Bowen. So today I'm pretending to be Megan Bowen. When you see Megan Bowen up here, that's me on my machine, my virtual machine. And so Navi, he is going to be, Navi, you're Diego, and Shaz is Patty, and Jamil is Nestor. And you're going to see how I'm going to interoperate with them in just a second. Let me kind of clear off this interface just so you know. So you see I've got the three of them right here. I've already kind of set them up so we can talk to them and chat to them and everything else. But this is the Teams environment. Yes, it's an application, but remember what I just showed you. It's also a container that everything else is going to fit in. It's also, this thing. Let me pull this over so you can see it real fast. It's also this box right here that all of these other programs become part of. So we'll come back to that again and again just to remind you that that's the case. So if I look down this far left side, you'll see I have an activities tab, a chat window, a Teams window, calendar, calls, files, and then you always see these three ellipses all over the place. Those ellipses, that's what they're called, is ellipses, always tell you that there's more to see than what Microsoft can currently show you based on the space provided. So if you ever click on the ellipses, it'll give you a bunch more options. It can't draw all these boxes in here because there's just not enough room, so it shortens it down with those ellipses. Same things for these. If I'm looking at what I can do with Diego, I see these ellipses pop up. And when I click on them, I can remove him from the group. I can notify when he's available. That's a great, cool feature. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But these ellipses always give you those different options. The one that you're probably going to spend the most in when you first get started, you're now sent home, you're now working from home, and you've never done this before, and you're trying to figure out, how do I connect with my groups? The easiest way to do it is to go to this Teams, and you're going to see a listing of all the Teams sites that your organization has that you are a part of. Okay, and just a little bit, we'll be creating our own. But for right now, we're going to have just some default sites that are out there. And when you click in any one of these, like retail, you'll notice that there are these channels. That's what Microsoft calls these. You always will have a general channel. And then you also might have other channels. And think of channels kind of like an old CB radio. They're ways to narrow the conversation down about a particular project or a particular part of what you're working on as a team. And we'll talk about that and how to create channels in just a minute, but just understand that's what these are. And then you also will notice these little red dots here. The red dots are simply telling me that someone has talked about me or posted something for me or mentioned me out in these different environments. And since the last time I've looked at this, it's highlighting areas where my name might have been mentioned. So example is if I go to the go-to-market plan that says 2, if I click here, I'm going to see a long listing, and everything in red with these dots is where someone mentioned my name. Someone said, hey, Megan Bowen, please review the contract with Addendum we need to approve RFP by 4 p.m. So someone has posted this out for the whole team to see, but they've been able to tag this with my name so that it comes up with this bright red sticker. And I see these are called mention signs. So I see I've been mentioned, and it really draws my eye to it and makes sure that I don't possibly miss this. This open section here, you always get, if we go up here, and I'll ask my team to, let's go to sales and marketing for everyone on my team. Let's go to sales and marketing and click on the general tab, right? And so we've got a bunch of different stuff. At the very bottom of the general tab, in the post section, you'll see ability to shout out to your fellow workers. So I can simply say, hey gang, what's up? So I just type this out and I hit enter. And as soon as I do this, this now gets broadcast out to all of their team sites and they can actually reply back. So I'm going to ask my team if Diego and Nestor and Patty would respond back. They can actually type in, they're going to go to the sales and marketing and they're going to click in general. And you can see Diego says, hey, Megan. And it says, hey, you were just mentioned in a post by Diego. And you'll notice that @ sign comes up. Now, how did Navi do that, right? Same thing here, Patty. How did they do that? How did they call it out so it's bold and my name gets mentioned? There's two ways to do this. One is anytime you use an @ sign, just like you do with social media, I can start putting in people's names. So I'm going to call out Diego, and I'm just going to click on his name. Diego has a birthday today, right? And I just want everyone on the team to know it's his anniversary or it's birthday or his kid just graduated or whatever the case may be. And by putting his name with that @ sign, if we were looking at Diego's screen, he would see that big @ sign and the big red bold coming up saying that he's been mentioned. This post section is exactly like walking the halls in your office and hanging out at the water cooler. It's a great place to bounce ideas around. It's a great place to check in on each other and see how they're doing. And it's kind of boring just to put a bunch of text in here. One of the things you can do is go down and use these tools that Microsoft has given you, which includes things like emojis, and there's a ton of them in here, GIFs, GIFsies, and you'll notice these are all animated GIFs, right? So if I'm crying my eyes out, I can put that in and I'll send it. And now the whole team's going to see I'm crying my eyes out, for example. Hopefully that's not the case. You have stickers. I can put in web stuff. I'll just say great day here. See my team's also posting some stuff in here, right? And so it's a chance just to have that same kind of social interaction that you would if you were hanging around the water cooler, okay? Super easy, super fast. There's so much more to Teams, but this is just kind of the general interaction back and forth. And if I wanted to, while I'm here, let's say that Diego called me out or someone else called me out, and I want to talk to Diego, I'm going to click on this chat window. And when I go to the chat window, I can just click right on Diego's name, just like you used to do in Skype. And I can say, hey, D, do you have the budget ready? Oops, budget ready. Right. And I didn't put his full name, so it didn't do that. And he can type back, and now we're talking back and forth. So this is a private chat between me and Diego. No one else in the team is seeing this. The nice feature about this is I'm waiting for Diego to type, but Diego's really slow. So I want to go look at some other teams or maybe look at a calendar. Or I notice that this activity now has a 1 red. That means while I wasn't looking, I wasn't in a certain section, it's telling me that someone else, Diego, has posted out to the sales and general marketing and done some other stuff. And while he's doing that, now I see his text, his chat comes right up here. Hi, Megan. Yes, it's in process, etc. So you can jump away and then jump right back and it stays persistent. So, yep, hi, Megan. Yes, sending it shortly. So just because you jump out or do something else, it'll let you know when he's posted and you can come right back to the conversation. And this is perpetual. If I close Teams down, it's now shut down, and now I'm going to open it back up again. It doesn't matter. I can jump right back into the exact same spot, whether it's a chat or a team discussion or all the GIFsies, the great day, and I have no idea what that thing is. And I'm sorry I clicked on that button because it appears to be dancing. But anyway, the point is it stays there as a bulletin board 24/7, 365 days. You could go back and look at it. You could search it. You can actually say, just like you can in social media, I really like this, or I love this, or this really scared me, or whatever the case may be. Everyone can comment, again, drawing each other's eyes in. So from a simple interface, whether it's activities that happened while I was sleeping, when I use Teams and I open it up, the first thing I look for is this activities, because it'll tell you everything that everyone else posted while I was asleep. Now it's only showing me what was posted in teams that I'm a part of. There may be 100 other teams that I'm not a member of. I'm not going to see any activity in them because they're proprietary for the group that was invited. And you'll see us do that when we create our own team. But anything I've missed on the teams I've been in, this activity will alert me that this happened. I can also, just like in Skype, I can create individual messages. I can create group messages. So here's one with 3 different people. And if I click, all 3 are still here active, even though they're not necessarily online. You'll notice that we have the same features within Skype, this concept of presence. Does everyone see the little green dot there? The green dot means that Patty's online right now and is able to talk if I need to get a hold of her. So is Diego. Alex is currently offline, and Isaiah, is that right? He is out of office. So if I hover over, it'll tell me he's not even in the office today. He's on vacation or something else. So that same presence that you've always had in all your Microsoft products also come through here. Okay, last but not least, if I go up into the teams, I do want you to see that each of these groups also has a number of files up here. So my posts are my general discussion. I have files. The files are a OneDrive that's shared by the entire group. It's not my OneDrive. It's everyone who's in the group. They all own this shared space or this shared file repository. Then we have wikis, which took place. They used to have Microsoft OneNote. OneNote is still there, but now they use wikis as a way just to, maybe I keep a running team meeting, team notes, things that everyone in this group is going to need to get access to. We could put in here. And lastly, but not leastly, there's this plus sign, and if I click on it, I can go up. This is where all the Microsoft apps and all of the other apps that you saw in my PowerPoint. I told you Microsoft has opened this up for all these third-party companies to add in their features and functionality. So all of this stuff is not even Microsoft. This is other stuff. And many of these are competitors, right? So as I mentioned, Evernote is in here. Here's Cisco Web Meetings. Evernote is a competitor to OneNote, but Microsoft doesn't care. They've opened it up, and they allow any company now to add in functionality that'll come right inside of Teams. Just like we showed you with this, right? Here's the Microsoft stuff. Here's all the third-party stuff. That's how this plus sign basically works, is I can add in anything I want to. And let me show you a quick example of what this will look like. I'm going to do a simple one. I'm going to just pull in another website. And so the website will be Microsoft. And it asked me the URL, HTTPS, and we want to use that S because we want it to be secure. Microsoft or Apple or anybody, your company, you name it. I hit save. And when I do this, watch what happens. In the meeting now, the Microsoft website exists inside of my team site. So in this Mark 8 Project Team General channel, I've now added the entire Microsoft website inside of it. You're down here in retail and you want to have a YouTube video on the best top 10 ways to sell a product in retail, I could just add it and pull in an entire retail website or use another tool or use a third party. All of this just keeps adding these tabs in that you see across the top. Okay, so hopefully that's starting to make sense. It's a familiar place to be. You're going to want to get out there and you're going to want to immediately, as soon as you start working from home, join your teams, go to your general channels, chat out to some people, use that @ sign, let them know that you're existing, that you're there, right? We don't want an out of sight, out of mind kind of concept, and start to engage in that plan by doing that. Then go to your chat session, start chatting. get some discussions going. Remember that these discussions will stay there even if you shut your machine down and come back 3 days later. Those chats will still be there. They're still active. You can go back and look at them and search them and find all the information. We're going to get into calendars, meetings, and calls in just a minute, but I'm going to jump back to my SharePoint or my PowerPoint real quick and continue on kind of where we left off. Are there any questions before I do that, though? So monitors, any questions on the chat board? I take that as a no. You guys are a good group. Either that or you've fallen asleep, but I think you're a good group. So I'm going to keep going. Let's go ahead and talk about the next big section. So I mentioned Active Directory in that second wave when Bill Gates took all the server stuff and he applied it into the Active Directory world. And the question becomes, well, what do you get when you create a new user in Active Directory? And very simply, that user gets an email, they get a file storage, they get a calendar, they get security, they get a bunch of applications assigned to them, etc. Well, the big question is, what happens when you create a team site? And the answer is the exact same thing. Okay, so when you create a team site, your team gets an email, a file store, a calendar, security privileges, applications. When you create a team, it actually creates a full Active Directory entry. But what's fascinating about this is we can utilize this information all together, and instead of it being assigned to a particular person like Megan Bowden, everyone in that team will share the same email, the same file storage, the same calendar, the same security, the same everything. Let's show that to you now with a real fast demo. We're going to create our own team site. So I'm back here in Teams, and I'm going to ask my cohorts here to join me in just a second. I'm going to go to Teams, and I'm going to create a new team, join or create a team. I'm going to click on that. And it says, okay, you could join with a code, you can join the public one that's out here, or you can create your own. I'm going to create my own, and I can either pull in something called a Microsoft group. That was technology that was used a couple years ago, and Microsoft kind of bridged the two, or I can build my own team from scratch, and this is the preferred way. When you build your own team, you actually are building a group as well. So you get both if you do this. So I'm going to go ahead and click a new team. Remember, too, we're moving really fast. If you have any questions or you want to try to figure out how your organization can do this, please call TechStar. We will be glad to talk you through this. This is what we do for our customers, as well as custom app development. And we build sites, and we basically do all the technical consulting around the Microsoft products. I can make this a private site, a public site, or an org-wide site. Org-wide means everyone at TechStar would see this when I put it out. Public means I can decide who gets to join or who's able to join, but everyone can see that the site exists. If I mark it as private, no one knows that the organization or this team site even exists unless they've been invited to participate. And this is a huge feature. Why would I want a private site? Well, let's say that your organization is going to do compensation changes in 2020, and it's just a group to get together to talk about changes to benefits or pay or whatever. You don't want all your employees to see that site out there and start freaking out that their compensation is going to change. So you would create that as a private site, and no one would even know that site existed unless they were expressly asked to join that site. Okay, it's private. It's not listed anywhere. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make a public site. I can give this any name I want to. So I did one earlier. Let's do Patty, Patty's team site, right? Or better yet, a better name would be Patty's direct reports. Okay, so these are all the people that report to Patty. And I could literally type that in. All the people that report directly to Patty. And I'd use Patty's last name, but I don't remember Patty's last name. So that's fine. We'll just put this out there and I'll say create. Now, in the Microsoft SharePoint world, building a site like this might take a really long time, especially if I'm trying to put all this functionality that you're seeing me do. Teams is actually a front end to SharePoint. Let me say that differently. Teams is SharePoint. It's a GUI interface that sits on the front of SharePoint, but it's running off of the SharePoint engine. But it looks and acts and feels completely different. And more importantly, what Microsoft is doing in building this site, the way they built it, is what I showed you with those 3 waves, right? They built a box that they could put everything into, and as long as they write to that same standard, everything inside of Teams will share with everything else and work seamlessly with everything else. You know, AWS has all those different modules, and the problem AWS has is they've been building the modules so fast that not all the data flows from every one of their modules to every one of their other modules. There's all this, you know, issue and other information. And AWS is a great product. I'm not slamming it at all. I just want you to realize Microsoft took a different path when they tried to orchestrate this so everything would fit under one umbrella. And that's what we're doing here. Now I've got the ability to add members, so I'm going to start typing in names. I know I want Diego. Notice I don't even have to type his full name. I just start typing. I want Patty in here. I want Nestor. There's Nestor. So those 3, I'm going to go ahead and add to this team. And when I say, okay, let's add them, that comes up and you'll notice that by default, they're given member status. And if I want to, since this is Patty's direct reports, I'm going to go ahead and change her to an owner. I can have multiple owners. It's actually encouraged. What if Patty goes on vacation? I don't want the whole site to be in limbo because she's on 2 weeks vacation. So I may have 2 or 3 owners, depending on how many people I have in the site. I'll simply say, okay. And as soon as I do this, those people, Navi, Shaz, and Jamil, who are helping me out, they're playing the parts of Diego, Patty, and Nestor. Suddenly their team site, they're going to see this added down at the bottom. They don't have to do anything to join. They're instantly in. So when I go ahead and click on Patty's direct reports here, you'll notice it gives me a general tab. And I'll simply say to everyone, are you there? Just to see that they're out there. And Nestor already replied and said, hello, team. But they can now go ahead and interface as well. So in a matter of seconds, we were able to set up, and you can see here comes some more. Can I have next Thursday off? And in this case, notice what Jamil did playing the part of Nestor. He said, can I have next Thursday off? And the @ sign, instead of using a people, he used the entire distribution list. So let's imagine there are 30, 40 people in this particular team. Maybe I have that many people working for me. By using the words Patty's direct reports, it now has put an alert here, a mention for everyone on the team to make sure that they all see that I'm going to reply to his comment and say no. All right. And I just played around with them. But this is how you can get the entire attention of everyone in the channel. You can pick the team and reference the team. I can also pick the sub-channels underneath. And we haven't set a channel. Let's go ahead and do that now. Remember that channels help you focus the discussion. So this direct reports, we're going to do a lot of stuff. But one of the things we're always going to be doing is month-end reports. So I'm going to add a channel called month-end reports. Okay, and I put a description. I can also set a different level of privacy for this. So maybe I have 100 people that are part of this team, but I only want 10 of them to be able to get into the month-end reports. This is a new feature that Microsoft's added. I can automatically show this channel in everyone's channel list, which I'll go ahead and do, and click add. And just that easy, now everything in here inside this channel should relate to month-end reports. If we were going to share a file, watching my time, I've got about 20 minutes left, so I want to use this wisely. If we were going to share a file in Outlook, kind of the old way in which we did things, what would we do? We would go out and we'd create the file, then we'd create an email, then we'd attach the file to the email, then we'd hit the share button because we have to give rights to the people to use that document. It's about a 5-6 step process. It's very, very cumbersome. Remember what I said about Active Directory. I'm going to pull it back up here for just a second so we can see it. Okay. So I said, when you create a new team, you're actually creating an Active Directory entry and you're getting your own team email and team file storage and team calendar. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that everyone who's a member of this team that I've created When I go up here into files, this is my OneDrive, it's my cloud storage. But when I go up here into files and I put a new file in, or in this case, I'll just create a new file, and I will call this the month-end report. So this will be for March of 2020. So I've started a new document called month-end report and March of 2020. The second I do that, it's going to go ahead and create this. It's now putting this into the Teams OneDrive folder. And so what's happening is, in just a second, I'm not sure why this is going a little slow here, but what you're going to see is it'll appear and it will be there for everyone. So I may have just killed that when I did that. Let's double check. Go back and look at my files. Either that or I dropped it in the wrong channel. That's fine. Let me have my team go ahead and put one in. You'll see in just a second, these will start flying in. And I think, by the way, you can also do this just by dragging and dropping. So rather than create one, I've got a folder set up here with some files, and I'm going to grab one of these. This is a JPEG. I'm just going to drag it and drop it. And when I do this, you'll see it's now updating, and boom, it's now out. And the second this appears, everyone on the team now has this in their file structure. Why? Because they all own the same file system. Let's take this a step further, okay? I told you in Active Directory that you can also share the same email. Well, these folders, like, let me go down here, Patty's Direct Reports. If I go to the General tab and I use the 3 ellipses and click on it, you'll notice, you know what? I may not have this set up on the demo. Let me see. Oh, there we go. See all the things I can do: add channels, manage the team, lead the team, edit the links, do all of that amazing stuff. What I really want to do, though, is I want to be able to look at the email address for this. And we've got this turned off on this particular demo, but that's not to worry, because I can just jump over to my real Teams, the one I'm using to broadcast this message. So this is my real TechStar one that you're seeing now. Got this in backup. And you can see we use Teams. Every time we work with a customer, we'll build a customer site, and we'll put different information out here. So if I wanted to, I could go into any one of these and click on this. I'll go to the General tab, and you can actually see there's a command called Get Email Address. Now, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to show my email address to the entire world and have you all email me. But if I did, you literally could externally email to that address, and when it came in, it would come into the entire team at the same time. Likewise, the entire team could send out an email using that address, and when the contractor or the partner or someone else gets it, they'll be getting it from the entire team. And when they answer, the entire team gets the answer back. This system has been set up so that administrators can turn it on or turn it off as necessary. So it's turned on in our TechStar world right now, and I forgot to turn it on in our demo world. That's why you don't see it listed here. I should have double checked that before we did it. But normally when I click, now this one allows you to do it. Okay, so this is the demo world. I just didn't set it up for Patty's Direct Reports. But if I say Get Email Address, now I can show you this because this isn't a real one. This is what it looks like. And if I copied and went to Outlook and broadcast to this, we'd actually see that email coming into the entire team at the same time. Let me give you one more example. If I go to Calendar, you're going to see your personal calendar listed, okay? So all the stuff that you see here is Megan's calendar, just as if she was in Outlook, working in Outlook. However, if I decide to create a new meeting, just like you would in Outlook, where I click here and I say, we'll call this weekly team call, okay? I'm now building this not in my Outlook, but I'm building it inside of Teams. Same features, dates, repeat. Do I want to repeat? I want to repeat every single week on this time. I can even assign this into a channel. So remember, we talked about sales and marketing or Patty's Direct Reports. I want to put this in the month end. So this meeting and all the notes taken with it and everything that relates to this are actually going to be stored in the month end reports, because that's what this meeting is about. I could put a location. If there's also a physical location, I could write it up. I'm just going to skip all this because I'm sure you understand that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I probably missed something on the requirements. Edit team meeting. And again, I did this, I built this site, and I probably didn't put all the options in, which is why it's doing that. But not a problem. I think it'll error out. No, that time it worked. No, it errored out. Okay, let me show you again back on my real teams. So I'm just going to go in here, go to my calendar. This is my real calendar. Yes, my son's really getting married. So I'm going to click here and say team call, and I won't put all that other stuff, but this has the parameters all set, and there it is. By doing this, I just put this event in everyone's calendar who's a part of this team. Well, which team is that? Well, again, you click, and I can tell it right in here based on who I want, which attendees, and which group I want to put this in this particular team call. It's all set right here. So everyone would instantly get this. There's no more sending out a calendar request and you accept it and I didn't accept it and blah, blah. All that's gone. If you're part of my team and I put it into the team calendar, not only do I see my stuff, but I also see the shared calendar inside. And you'll notice that it looks different. I'm clicking in on the other one, but it looks different and allows you to jump back and forth. So we have different styles, different colors, different other stuff all popping in, all because when you create the team, everyone who's a part of the team now shares the same calendar, the same email, the same everything, same file system. Realize they still have their own, but they're sharing those features together. So I'm going to pause again and go ahead and see if there's any questions on that. I know we're getting more and more technical as we go, but we're almost done. We got about 15 minutes left, a little less than 15 minutes. Any questions? Okay, so let's show you what we're talking about here. I'm going to jump back into my team site. I'm going to go ahead, and you saw how in Patty's direct reports, I think I threw in a file in here under the file system. Okay, there we go. And now my team also threw in a bunch of other stuff too. I thank you guys for doing that. So I threw out this March 2020 and I threw out this process. This document exists inside of OneDrive, inside this team site, inside this channel. Notice if I go to the general files, I'm not going to see these. General and files, there's nothing listed there. So it's specific to the channel. Every time you create a channel, Microsoft will allocate another terabyte of hard disk space for you to store stuff. So you should never be running out of space because you get plenty. You get your own OneDrive files, and that's for a separate topic on OneDrive, but you also get this. But here's the crazy part. Let's jump back to PowerPoint for just a second. So we're talking about creating our own team. There we go. So I want to talk about file sharing real quick because this is where Microsoft blows away. Actually, most of what you've seen already blows away Slack and some of those other kind of collaborative tools. But this takes it to a whole nother level. And everyone looks at this and says, what is this screen? There is a ability right now in every copy of every program, excuse me, running on every machine, where you can take a USB hub like what I've got right up here. I could plug it into this laptop and I could plug in 10 keyboards and 10 mice into a single machine, and all 10 keyboards and all 10 mice will all work. So I could just keep typing across all 10 and they can all work simultaneously. The reason why this happens is because Intel, when they made the chip that says, yes, allow a user to use a keyboard or a mouse or a printer or whatever, they didn't know how many you would use. A printer, you may want a black and white printer, and you may want a color printer, and you may want a photo printer. Who knew? So Intel said you can have as many as you want. There's no limit. So you can put multiple keyboards and multiple mice, attach them into a hub, connect them into a single computer, and type simultaneously on them and move the mouse simultaneously, and they all work at exactly the same time. The reason I wanted to show you that is because Microsoft's done something totally amazing. If I go back into my month-end files, month-end reports, and we see this March document that I had. I'm going to click on this to open this up, but I'm going to ask Navi and Shaz and Jamil to also click in their environments and go ahead and open it up. And I want you to see what's happening. So I didn't really have anything in here. I think I just put some garbage or whatever. So this is my document, okay, and I want that on a new line. Well, wait a minute. What's happening is I'm seeing a bunch of flags appear, these little golf flags. What those are, you see DS and NW, that's Nestor and Diego. That's the other people on our team currently jumping in and attaching their keyboards and their mice to my document. The document's still in Teams. There's only one version of the truth here, okay? I realize I don't know if my webcam's on, but I'm looking out at the screen. So they're actually typing that. I am not typing that. So keep typing, gentlemen. Oh, they put in a cute kitty, but I don't like kitty. So I say, where's the dog? And while they're typing and while they're still doing their stuff, I'm still working on mine. You can have simultaneous live connections in true collaboration happening all at the same time. And you can see it's not just text, it's photos, it's tables, it's Excel formulas. It works across all of the apps. Every Microsoft Office app has the ability to do this live collaboration. So while he's putting stuff in there, I can be putting in some numbers, maybe reformatting this and putting in some information, and everyone's working at the exact same time. And you'll notice our microphones are still working and our webcams are still working. Everything's still applying, happening simultaneously. Microsoft is the only one out there that can do this to this level. Yes, Google and Apple and those guys, they can share a document, but the way in which they do it severely limits the number of people that you can have simultaneously working on a document. The more people you put on, the more bandwidth you eat up, the more, oh, that's too cute, the more network resources you're accommodating, etc. Remember what Microsoft's doing. All Microsoft is doing is taking just your keyboard and your mouse and attaching it simultaneously to that same document. For those of you that are programmers, you know that the data that's passing back and forth with just the keyboard and the mouse, we're talking about like a 1K package. It's nothing. No stress on the system, no stress on the network, no stress on the application, in this case, Word. Which means that, yes, there is a limit to the number of people you can have online doing this at any given time. The limit from Microsoft is 10,000 people. The 10,001st person can't participate in this because that's when you start to get network lag. If you look at Google and Apple, I think Google only recommends up to 50, and then they actually declare the closer you get to 50, the more impact you're going to have on your systems. I think Apple says 100, but the same thing. They have these big warnings on there that say your machine's going to suffer, you're going to slow down, you better have a really beefy machine. Microsoft doesn't need that because all it's doing is passing back and forth the mouse and the keyboard. I'm going to stop for a second and see if that makes sense to everyone. That is a huge, huge feature. So imagine your next team call you have, if you could have notes where everyone is working simultaneously on filling in the month end and charting and graphing, and someone's writing the introduction while someone else is formatting a map of resources you're using, whatever the case may be. We work on this all the time like this, and our customers do the same. The maximum amount of productivity. And it doesn't matter if you're at home or in Europe or anywhere in the world, it's the same login connection. As long as you can get to the internet, you can get in here. This actually goes even a step further. So I'm going to ask again if there's any questions, but I'm also going to flip over to one more graphic because we're nearing the end. So let's pop over here. So what Microsoft is doing, just so you get a simple understanding, they're building your team site out in the internet, in the cloud, okay? So Microsoft Teams stands up a site, not on the Microsoft property, but out in a neutral location out here in the cloud. Now, Microsoft and TechStar have a great relationship. We've been a gold partner for a long time. We're doing a bunch of really cool projects with them. We talk all the time to our Microsoft counterparts. And what can happen is if you build a site out in the cloud using Microsoft Teams, TechStar can now go out into the cloud and have access to this. But what's amazing is TechStar can also invite people from other companies to come join us. So Microsoft reps can join the TechStar team out in the cloud, and we can now have a Microsoft TechStar team where both groups are operating together as if we were sitting in the same room working on the same thing. And I could keep going. I could have, I know we went and did work down in North Carolina when the hurricane came through, right on the North Carolina, South Carolina border. And we built a disaster recovery drill, helping them, help the city government take advantage. Mount Pleasant is where I was, and I taught them how to use Teams to run disaster recovery. Well, they wanted the governor to be on a tab and be involved. They wanted the press, because ABC News and everyone was wanting time to talk about it. They wanted a map of where the flooded highways were, et cetera. Well, you could have 10, 11, 20 different groups all out here, all pointing back in. The important point is Microsoft can access everything we're doing on the team site, but they can't come back down into the TechStar site. They will never get access to our network, and vice versa. TechStar can never get into the Microsoft network. We never have to ask Microsoft IT for permission to talk to the Microsoft people, because we've set up a third-party neutral site where everyone can come together to share information and do this. So it makes it incredibly easy now to collaborate with your vendors, with your partners. Matter of fact, if you work with TechStar and we run a project for you, the first thing we do is we throw up a team site. We invite you to be a part of it. It's out in the cloud. It's secured, so no one gets in unless they've been invited. But you will get 24/7, 365 updates on where are we on our projects, how are we doing against our goals, are we on budget, are we on time. We post notes to each other all the time. You saw some of that when I showed you our Microsoft one. Every customer we build this for, and it makes the project management so incredibly efficient and available. If you're working from home, Teams can do this for you. Set up your own team site, do your own stuff, connect in the way you want to, and you'll have the ability to do all this. One last thing I need to show you. We got just a few minutes left. But okay, so for now I'm working. By the way, again, I can jump out, go look at other stuff, and jump back in, and it still continues. It's always perpetual. Nothing closes down or stops, and I can get back to it anytime I want to. What if I wanted to, however, make a phone call? Okay, so we saw how I could generate a meeting. I think I showed you that. And by the way, you can set up a new meeting, or I could just hit this Meet Now button. It's an emergency. Something's popped up, and I don't want to have time to do all this stuff, so I'm just going to say, let's create a Meet Now. As soon as I do this, it's telling me I have no microphone, because my microphone is now attached to the TechStar Teams meeting. So if you think about it, we have a Teams meeting going on inside a Teams meeting, and it's simply saying, hey, I can't tell which microphone you want to apply it to. Do you want to call me back? If I hit yes, Teams will call me on the phone and automatically connect me in. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to simply ignore that. And at this point, I could just start inviting someone. So I want to get, as we mentioned earlier, Patty, she needs to be in, and I want to go ahead and get Nestor. And so we'll pull him in, and I want to get Diego. So all I'm doing is just typing in a few names. Notice that I'm still getting their status. So it tells me if they're green, they're available. So they're actually joining me now in a live meeting, just as if I had set up a conference call or had put all this stuff in. Same thing holds true. I can look at the chats. I can look at the people. I can decide to mute everyone on the call in case someone, put me on hold and now we have music playing in the background. I could share my desktop. They can share their desktop. Can one of you share your desktop just so they can see what it looks like on our end? So Nestor, can you share your desktop with us? Or Diego, it doesn't matter who. Maybe both of you are doing it. And it might not work actually now that I think about it, because we're in a meeting within a meeting. Nope, there it goes. Okay, so he's actually sharing his desktop now. So I'm actually seeing his computer screen as he's working around and clicking on the actions, and then he can hit stop sharing and give back control. So you have this full ability to work just as if we were sitting in a conference room, working across from each other. Microsoft also allows you, notice while the meeting is still going on, I can jump out and I can reach out to other people, I can chat, I can do all kinds of stuff. I'm going to kill the meeting I was in. By the way, that doesn't kill them. They can continue on without me if they want to, or they can drop. But I can go into calls, and Microsoft has hooked their telephony together with Teams. Remember how there were a bunch of applications that all had the ability, Skype for Business, all that stuff. They could all do that telephony. Why do you have so many different ones? Why not take the telephony out, drop it into Teams, and from Teams, I can call anyone. And when I say call, I mean call. Use my computer, or I could actually use different apps, etc. I hear a question coming in. Nope, I heard someone unmute, so I thought there was something coming in. We're right at the end, so let me close this out. I've got a couple action items I want you to do really fast. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I did want to show you a couple of advanced features. This will take just a second, but you'll notice that you can see my webcam now. One of the features that Microsoft has is called Blur My Background. I click on the little ellipses, and when I do, you'll notice the entire background disappears, which is really cool. So I may not want you to read all the books on my shelf or see how dirty my room is or anything else. Microsoft has taken this to an extreme too. I'll turn this back off. I'm also going to turn on live captions. And so now you'll notice as I'm talking, the Microsoft AI is translating and transcribing this in real time inside of our meeting. There's no magic going on here. It's listening to my voice and it's typing it out in English. If you were listening and you are not a native English speaker, you could actually translate it into your own language and tell it that you want to see it in Arabic or, Mandarin Chinese or whatever, and it would actually do that. I'm going to go ahead and turn those features off. So I'm going to tell it to stop the live captions. I'm going to tell it to stop the blur. There's one last thing I want to show you, which is this right here. Microsoft just announced some incredibly new features, and I'm going to just jump out and show you this website to save time. This will all be on our deal. Not only can they blur the background, but Microsoft's now adding in custom backgrounds. So you can see it's just like a green screen. She can make it look like she's at the lake or the beach or wherever she wants to just by clicking. They're also adding in this ghosting feature. So they have a camera now on the whiteboard. And of course, as he stands in front, he's blocking everything. But the AI allows it to make him translucent so you can still see what's going on the screen behind him, even though he's standing in front of it. Microsoft is taking care of all that for him. They're also putting in the live captions. I just showed you that feature is now out. So as you talk, you can see that. There's a bunch more features, more security, data loss prevention is in here. There's the last thing I want to talk to is this live events. We're doing a webcast right now, but we could also host this as a live event. Live events allow you to use professional production cameras and mixing boards and everything else in your live meeting. You can have 10,000 people participate. You can do live camera switching, just like you would in a more larger production. That's all going to be supported inside of the package. So that's it. The last things we have to talk about, here are my 6 steps, and literally we're done. I want you to turn on your webcams. If you're working from home, get used to turning on your webcams. It's no different than being in the office. You don't see people walking down the hall going, don't look at me, right? We aren't that way. They're used to seeing you. They want to see you in a meeting. Turn those webcams on. You can turn on the blur feature if you want more privacy. Number 2, record your meetings if it's allowed. Some companies, if you're in a finance or you're in healthcare or something, they do have rules about what can and cannot be recorded. Usually internal meetings are okay, but if there's an external source, you got to make sure that I don't want to get you in trouble. But it's great if people miss the meeting or later on you want to archive and look back 6 months ago, what were we talking about, what we do, it's all right there. Practice inclusion. Make sure it's so easy to let dominant type A people like myself who talk a lot dominate the conversation like I did today, right? You want to make sure you go through every single person and make sure everyone gets a say, because you're working remotely, you lose that you know, around the table thing. Make sure that everyone gets their point across. Track your notes and make action items. I haven't even talked about Planner. It's one of the add-ons you can do. It allows you to delegate tasks as you go. You could create those relevant tabs, like I made a Microsoft site, maybe a YouTube video, maybe you're going to stream out some of those third-party features, and then make sure you install Teams on your mobile devices. That's absolutely critical, because you can take Teams anywhere, and as long as you got your phone, a smartphone, a tablet, anything, doesn't matter if it's Android or Mac or you name it, Teams works across all that. We can only see you and not your screen. Oh, hey, because I'm not sharing this out. Thank you, Navi. I appreciate that. My bad. So let me go back. And I just realized you probably didn't see any of the other stuff too. So that was foolish of me. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And I'll just do it here. So these were the points I was just making. My apologies. And I think I did. Hopefully you all saw this, which was the ghosting, which I was talking about earlier. These are features that are coming probably in the next couple of months from Microsoft. They're in beta right now. And then the custom backgrounds as well. She's swapping out and green screening different backgrounds all from inside there. This link is available. It'll be in the PowerPoints, so you can go test it out. You can read up more on it. But we are out of time. I'm actually 5 minutes over. So I'm going to do one last check to see if there are any questions that we didn't get answered. And if not, we'll go ahead and close this out. And we will be archiving this out on our website, out on TechStar Group. /events, just like we have with all of the other ones. So just to show you, if I go out here, I'm going to log in, TechStar Group, and then I'm going to put a /events. And this is where some of you registered today for our event. We'll be posting up our other events that we're coming. We're going to try to do this almost weekly. We won't do it every week, but pretty close. And then we put up our other webcast. We have one on Power BI that went exceptionally well. I've got 6 videos on shortcuts on tips and tricks for the office or file manager or applications. They're all up there. They're all free. They're resources for you to get better, faster, more productive. And as soon as this one is ready, probably in the next 24 hours, we'll have this webcast posted up here too. Navi, are there any other questions from today's session? And if not, I'll go ahead and close it out.
No question. Just want to thank everyone for attending. As we mentioned earlier, we will be having another demo on Power Apps and Power Flow within the next few weeks. We'll email you once we have that scheduled, and we hope everyone stays safe and that you found this useful, as we're all working from home and to keep ourselves and family safe. So,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate my team. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone.